right. Hello and welcome Just a Family. This is giving you something to talk about, or Just a Live TV, as I like to call it. I'm your host, Melissa Krechler. I'm an identity coach, spiritual teacher, business mentor, creator, and founder of not only Just a Live TV, but also the Women Supporting Women Can Network. Go and take a look at those. You can reach me and my guest speaker. Links in the description of this episode. Today's sponsor is Phoenix Identity. If you're feeling like you want to end it all, please, and I can't stress this enough, please reach out to a prevention hotline near you to help you. As you know, I have to be careful how I word it. Otherwise, the show won't be aired on certain platforms. But we are definitely talking about when you want to unalive yourself. So that is what today's episode is about. Phoenix Identity. If you'd like to learn how to reconnect to who you are and what makes you happy and feel like life is worth living, please set up a clarity session. We are here to help. Link in the description. All right, I'm going to hand it over to my guest speaker today, who is Juliana Bruno. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Juliana Bruno, and I started a nonprofit called Social Refugees, whose mission is twofold, really. It's to bring awareness to these tough topics we're going to talk about today, to kind of create a space where people can talk about it openly and honestly, because sometimes a lifeline really is being able to speak openly and honestly about issues that you're dealing with or things that you're feeling. And we do that through art. We partner artists in a field that the client is interested in tapping into. We partner them with a client. Our clients are anyone who's been suffering with issues associated with death, suicide, or mental health. We partner them with an artist, and through that mentoring sessions, they develop a body of work, and then we find a place in the community to showcase the work. And it could be any kind of art. It can be music, it can be fine art, it can be media art. It's really an open field. And then in showcasing that in the community, it creates a space that the community can talk about it. And, art is a really healing venue for that. Probably every single one of us here today has used music to either bring up our mood and create something more joyful for ourselves, whether it be getting ready to go out or listening to music in the car on your way somewhere or at a party, or if you're feeling down, you've listened to music to cheer you up or read a story that cheers you up or something like that. Art's really powerful. And so through that medium, we hope to help people who are having a hard time.
Absolutely. I love that. Absolutely love that. I'm music so I can't sing worth shit. Pardon my language. If at any point I swear in this, please know that it's just my passion coming through. I cannot sing. I can dance. No, I can't dance like everybody else. But I'll have little dance parties, and I turn the music as high as I can so that nobody else can hear my singing. Right. And it's freeing to me. My happy place is in my car driving with the music blasting and I'm singing. Nobody's talking to me, nobody's distracting me, and I'm going, right? And I'm in that moment. And being in the moment is a huge part of mental health, and it's a huge part of healing. Now, I'm an identity coach. I am a mindset, mental and emotional health expert when it comes to doing all that. And I love that you said sometimes it's just having that open space to talk. And that is, we'll get into more of those later, but being able to have a judgment-free space where somebody can just listen, that is so utterly important. Now, I'm going to segue that into some of the causes of feeling like you're suicidal. Now, there are, chemical imbalances that do cause, great depressions and the need to not be here anymore. And unfortunately, in some of those cases, there's not a lot that we can do, right? But always try, right? Always try. If
Right,
you
right.
and you have thought that, please always try something different, try something new, try and talk to somebody around that can help you. Anyway, I'm going to stress that a million times in this episode. But again, when it comes to what causes it, for me, it's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between who you are and how you're living, or who you are and how you're expressing, of who you are and how you handle things. And this is why I segued into that, is when you're feeling, give me a second because my thoughts are all kind of scattering here. I'm gonna let you add on to that for a minute while I try to backtrack in my head on where I was.
Sure. So you were discussing reasons why people might find themselves in a space where they're contemplating suicide. It can be a lot of things. It can definitely be what you were mentioning. It can be a mental illness or a mental health issue. It can be an abuse situation involving drugs or alcohol or other, being abused. It can be feeling like an outcast and alone. Sometimes people will contemplate suicide because it's kind of an altruistic behavior. They sort of feel like, well, my friends and family will be better off if I'm just not here anymore. Something catastrophic could have happened to them, maybe a death of someone close by. Maybe, suicide always spikes when in a recession or something like that, when the economy's not doing well. Certainly things, like a pandemic also play into that. And sometimes people are in a position where they're so overly controlled by something else that they feel they can't get out of it, or they can't perform to a certain standard of expectation or something like that. So, and many more reasons. There's so many. It is just this kind of feeling of loss a lot of time that just gets more and more profound, and then is compiled by maybe one or more of the things we're talking about, or just the prolonged time of being in that place. There's a lot of things that can kind of get someone to that space.
So I did remember where I was going with that.
Okay, good.
Hand in hand with that. Each of us have our own path, and you can be spiritual or non-spiritual. I don't care where you are on that spectrum. We each have a different path we're going to walk. We're individuals, right? We are individually who we are. I'm Melissa, you're Juliana. Whoever's watching, you're you. There is no person, you can have an identical twin and they will not be or act or think the same way that you do. So right. When we're talking about going back a few minutes ago, when we talked about that judgmental space or that judgment-free space, if you're in a situation, say you and I have had the exact same situation, it's not going to impact me the same way it's going to impact you. You're not going to react to it the same way that I would react to it. Everybody is different. And I think that one of the things is having that safe space, that judgmental-free space, is knowing that your experience is uniquely your own.
Right.
And while you can have somebody like Juliana and me who can sit down and say, I understand, because we do. I have an innate ability to, you can tell me a situation and I can tell you every possible reason you would be there, or every possible way that you would feel coming out of that situation. It's insane, but I do it. And being able to say, you look at celebrities, and I started coaching when two of my favorite musicians had committed suicide, and it was back to back. My oldest child was having issues at that point with their mental health. They were cutting. A friend of mine had committed suicide, or an acquaintance of mine had committed suicide, leaving behind a child that was the same age as mine. And I was very angry about that. And then it just, this whole spiral effect. And during that time, it got me thinking that, it doesn't matter where your stage is, but one of the reasons I created my coaching practice was because I could see high profile individuals, and I'm not saying this is not directed at anyone in particular, but high profile individuals, you can look at them and they could say, you know, I'm really not happy. Kardashian, and I've used this story a few times, was premiere of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I don't watch the show, but I had caught it that day. And Courtney had said, you know, she had started crying and said, you know, I'm really unhappy. Like, I have everything, but I'm unhappy. And I'm sitting there going, hi, like, I understand that. I know what that's like. Let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter who you are, how much fame you have, how much money you have, how many friends you have, how much isolation you have. Nobody is going to be the same as you.
Mm-hmm.
So I go back again and say, your situation is unique to you. So the way that you feel about it is unique to you. Anybody watching, if you get to a point where you're considering even suicide, that is unique to you, because that situation is going to be different for absolutely everybody. I have a child who would tell people that she was going to commit suicide and did it for attention. I can actually say it was done for attention. You know, a lot of people will say that and it's not.
Right.
And that's scary.
Right. Exactly. I think that's one of the hardest thing for people, you know, when they ask, well, what can I do if there's someone I know who might be suicidal, is really suffering in some way? And you hit it on the head. It's really not, you know, to be there for support, you know, undying support. And it might involve driving them to the emergency room. It might involve driving them to appointments, doctor's appointments or something like that, or getting them into a 72-hour watch program, or a whole host of these physical things that you do. But it's also just being support for them, giving them a space to talk about it, not being afraid to say the word suicide or talk about it, and not being, you know, saying like, I don't really know how to talk about this with you, but I'm going to, you know, but I support you and I want the best for you. And so let's talk. You know, if you need to say that disclaimer to yourself, you know, out loud, so you feel more confident about in speaking to whomever it is. But it's also realizing it's their experience. You know, you shouldn't say things like, oh, well, it'll get better, and, you know, well, your life's not that bad, or, you know, all these judgmental kind of communication should not be part of your communication with that person. It should be, I support you, I hear what you're saying, tell me about it, you know, how are you feeling? How did this happen? Do you think you need help? Do you have help and not enough? Do you need help navigating the system? Because certainly the mental health system is a real challenge to navigate when we're feeling, you know, in our best spaces. But when you're suffering with depression or suicidal thoughts or a whole host of other things, just driving yourself somewhere to get that help is impossible. Just walking, when I worked in the university system, you know, we would on occasion walk students to the mental health facilities because they could not make it there themselves by that time. That's how bad it gets for some people. And just really being there, you know, some families who are really kind of, this might be something they've recognized for a while now or something like that. Family and friends might want to get together and have a game plan, you know, physically written down. Here are the numbers to so-and-so's, you know, doctors. Here are the numbers to the one person that seems to really be able to talk to them in their time of need. Here are some steps for what we're going to do. Here's the, you know, 988 is, you can text or call that number. It's a national suicide hotline. That should be in there. You know, whatever you need, who's going to pick up the pieces, you know, and just checking in on the person, checking in on them, you know, maybe bring them a sandwich or something like that. Just showing them that what they're going through matters, and it matters to you, and you're here and you see them.
Yep. I would like to add, don't forget that doesn't define them.
Right.
Mental health whether that's suicidal thoughts, whether that is a debilitating disability, whatever it looks, that doesn't define the person that you're dealing with,
Right.
the person that you're working with or loving or talking to. Their illness or their mental health does not define who they are as a person.
Right.
And I think that we've done episodes on special needs children. We've done episodes on dealing with toxic people, and that doesn't define the person that they are. That just shows that they're in a place where their individual personality is not showing.
Right.
Their individuality is not there. Right? Their connection to who they are is not there. That doesn't mean that they're, for the rest of their life, going to be this suicidal person that you can't talk to, or that you have to be afraid for, or afraid to be around, or anything
Right.
along those lines. No. And one other thing I'd like to mention for anybody who is a family or a friend or an acquaintance of somebody who is suicidal, you don't always know.
Right.
A lot of the times, and in my experience, and I'd like you to correct me if I'm wrong, Juliana, because you deal with this a lot more than I have, is the people who are, I don't want to say successfully going to go through with it, aren't going to say anything.
Right. I mean, that can sometimes be true. A lot of times it is, especially if they're feeling isolated or that no one's listening. There are, shame. There are a lot of, kind of things you can look for or see, like someone starts to give away all their possessions. If they're not openly talking about suicide or writing suicidal, notes or things like that, they are collecting, whatever it is they're going to do, whether it be weapons or pills or whatever. If you don't see those really obvious signs, it can also be things like just subtle changes in their personality, things they're no longer excited about doing anymore, which they used to do with you all the time. It might be sleeping a lot. It might be being more, quick to anger and it might be the opposite of that. Just some sort of subtle change can happen too, so. And that goes undetected a lot of times because we all kind of are up and down a little bit. We go through our times of great happiness and something will happen that's challenging or sad or whatnot. And so it's really hard to pinpoint that without, and keep it in a framework of, is this really just somebody living their life, or is this something I should be paying attention to? It comes down to just trusting your intuition, I think, too, a lot of the time. But you don't, sometimes you just don't know, and there's nothing you can do or say about it because you don't know, you're unaware, and then oftentimes if somebody is on the other end of that, which, in social refugees, we work with people who have lost loved ones due to suicide and other things. And it's oftentimes those people can feel a lot of guilt. And it's really hard because I think, oh, maybe I should have said something, or maybe if I would have went out with them for dinner when they asked me to, they'd still be here, or, all these hosts of things you say to yourself. And you can't really ever say, that's not true. That's not true. That's there is some failing of the system that's happening there, because there should be a system in place to kind of catch people, but it's a challenging, system to navigate, as I was saying earlier. But it's not because they didn't know you loved them. They knew you loved them. Probably that love got them through other hard times you don't even know about, and they did love you dearly too. It's so much more than that. It's so much more to that, and society kind of extracts it down to this. Well, somebody, didn't take them to dinner, or didn't pick them up and give them a ride, or, I the most typical one I see a lot is I didn't pick up their phone call, and that's not on you.
We had the acquaintance of mine that had committed suicide had posted on Facebook, and outwardly when she posted, it was very upbeat. She was beautiful, had amazing progress, and she had posted a song. The post before the song was, I tried to reach you, I couldn't get a hold of you, and a few other things. And then she posted this song, and I can't listen to this song now without thinking about her, because I caught that post as soon as it was posted. And the thought went in my head, I should have listened to that. I should have seen her last few posts and known that this was going to happen. And she didn't end up committing suicide shortly after that post. But the question was, if I had messaged her, would it have made a difference? If I had reached out or kept in contact more, would that have made a difference? It is a very internal thing for the people who are left behind. It is a very, we put that on ourselves. Could we have made a difference? Could this have changed? Now, to all of you who have lost a loved one to suicide, or, futuristically, if you lose a loved one to suicide, forbid, but at the same time, if it happens, remember to, number one, give yourself grace and give them grace, because everybody is doing the best that they can with the knowledge they're given.
Right.
That's all we can do, right? We're living life to the best of our ability with the knowledge that we have. We can look back and go, oh, I wish I had done that differently. I wish I had done that differently. But you didn't know. You didn't know to do it differently, right? You didn't know to ask that question. You didn't know to pick up the phone. You didn't know to be there, because you're living your life too. And I caution everybody to remember that decision to do that is entirely on them. It has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with anyone but themselves making that decision. You could and cannot ever control somebody else's behaviors.
Right. And it's not, I want to make sure we make the distinction that although we're saying it's not something that you did that caused someone to attempt suicide, but at the same time, support anyone in need as much as possible, because that could be the lifeline, that could be the difference, of all the people that attempt suicide. 90% of them go on to live life, afterwards. And so of the people who attempted suicide itself is the 10th it's a leading cause of death in the United States, is 10th. So, but those who attempt, 90% of them go on to live life afterwards. So it's harkens back to what you were saying, is it's not a defining characteristic of the person, but also, we do need to support people as much as we can, the best that we can, but we can't do and be everything.
Yeah.
And exactly. If somebody is going to attempt suicide or follow through with suicide, that is not the failing of someone here. It's not the failing of the person who attempted or succeeded either. It's not a blame game. It's not that. It's something more than that we all as human beings can understand. All of us struggle with some type of mental health, whether it's anxiety or stress or other things, but those are the two most common that everyone deals with. And you can just think of yourself in these times of stress. How clear thinking are you? How are you feeling in that moment? It can be excruciating. It's not something that you can place blame on or say, well, if this happened, this wouldn't have happened, or you never know. You can't say that.
That's tomorrow's episode. Who am I in this moment? Right? It's who am I right now?
Right.
Right. And I think one of the things I'd like to mention, definitely for me before we get going here, is when you ask somebody if they need help, or if you want to help something, there's 2 points here. Please remember that if you want to help somebody, help them the way that they need. If you're not comfortable with that, then find a different way. Then talk that out, but communicate in that way. How can I help you? What do you need? Now, if you're comfortable doing what they need, whether that be, sorry, my husband's calling apparently. Ask somebody, how can I help you? And when they give you a way, remember that it's not about how you want to help them. It's how they need help. Right. And that's why I say lead with love. Now, leading with love means that I'm going to help you. If I don't feel comfortable helping you in the way that you need, I'm going to do whatever I can to find somebody that will, or to discuss it with you and say, I'm not really comfortable with that, but is there some other way that I can help you? And finding that happy medium, because we always have to put ourselves first. We're always our number one priority. That we always should be our number one priority. But at the same time, again, lead with love and say, how can I help you? Not how can you take my help? How can I help you?
Right. And let me only offer you these 3 things for my help, which all of them I've decided are what you need.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you kind of have to take that position, especially if you're a parent. That's a little bit more of a fine line there, and sometimes someone's in such crisis, you do have to take the reins, so to speak, but it's checking in if that happens. And
but giving options, right?
Right.
If somebody's in a space where they mentally don't know what they need, don't know how you can help, don't know any of that. If they're in that worst case scenario, go, these are the 3 options. Which one are you most comfortable with? Because one of these 3 is going to happen, because I'm not going to let you go. And give them that opportunity to, one, start taking back control. Right? When you give somebody options, and I have what's called the rock star method. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to throw this out there. I have what's called the rock star method. And this is revolutionary for when you are in a high stress, high crisis moment, and you are so overwhelmed emotionally. I have a 8-step method that will get you out of that in minutes. In minutes, you'll come back to yourself and go, in minutes. I have that in a PDF. Ask for that if you need that. I will gladly post that for anybody who wants that. But what it is recognizing how you feel. You have to recognize how you feel. And if that's somebody saying you are a danger to yourself right now, I need you to recognize this. I need you to, obviously the Rockstar method, I haven't tested it in that moment. And I'd rather not. That's obviously something I'd rather not, because I don't want anybody to be in that moment. But it's to help you embrace your emotions and really understand how to control them. But when you give somebody back control, when they don't feel like they're in control, sometimes suicide is just that, a need for control. It's a need to feel in control of their life, of their feelings, of their emotions, and even removing themselves from the equation to take back their control.
Right.
So yeah. Anything you would like to add before we get going?
There's so much to add. It's a tough conversation in a half an hour's time, but I do want to remind everybody that if you are struggling with suicide, you can call or text the hotline. 988 is the national hotline.
There are US, right?
What? I'm sorry.
Is that just for the US?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are local hotlines in your area. As soon as you Google it, they'll all come up. And to really consider, if you have someone in your family or your friend group that you feel is struggling, to really support them and be there for them, check in on them, use positive language with them. If you can make a plan with the others that are close to the person, so you're all on the same page if you do have to take some sort of action somewhere, and just to have numbers handy when you need them. And if somebody is having a really hard time, you might have to help them fill out paperwork, or you might have to get them to a doctor's appointment if they so choose to do those things. It's really hard to navigate the current system when you're so depleted. You're having a challenging time even getting out of bed. So just know that, and you could do everything and it could still not have the outcome you're hoping for, and that's nothing for you to carry around as something you didn't do right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. In Canada, we have the Kids Help Phone. We have Talk Canada. We have multiple ones. So check your local listing, put it in Google, suicide prevention hotlines, or text and talk, whatever that looks like for you, wherever you are in the world, because I do know that we have viewers all across the globe. So make sure that you're finding your location that works for you. Find that help. And I can't stress enough, find the help, ask for help. There is no shame. And for any of you, please listen to this. There is no shame in asking for help.
Right.
None.
No. Right.
So,
and I would just add, as a final little thing, there's a lot of great resources out there. NAMI.org is a really great one. You can go on there and they have pages like, what do I do if my friend is considering suicide? And it'll give you a lot of great pointers. There's a lot of just help on there to sort of navigate all of these issues. So that's NAMI.org. You can go there and get some resources.
Absolutely. For anybody watching or catching the replay, please, again, contact your local suicide prevention hotline. Get in touch with either myself or Juliana. A link's in the description. If you would like us to continue this conversation on another episode, if you have questions or points that you feel like we've missed, please feel free to reach out to, again, either myself or Juliana, and we will make that happen. Again, I love yourself first. Lead with love. Love yourself first. There is no shame in asking for help. And make sure that when you're asking somebody if they need help, that it's their help that you're looking to provide. So, well, thank you, Juliana, for joining me today. This has been an impactful episode.
Thank you so much for having me and talking about this issue.
Absolutely. Go and check out Juliana's not-for-profit, again, linked in the description of this episode. If you want to be a guest speaker, or if you have a topic you want to see featured on the show, please reach out to us at justalivetv.com. If you're looking to sponsor, if you want your name up there and me saying who sponsored this episode, go and, again, reach out. Today's episode is Phoenix Identity. First and foremost, go to your local suicide prevention hotline if you are considering attempting suicide. As well, if you want to reconnect to who you are, take control of your emotions and your identity, please reach out to us at Phoenix Identity for a clarity session. All right. Lots of love, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on when or where you're watching. I'm Melissa Krechler, your host. Go and check out our guest speaker, Juliana Bruno, and I will see all of you on the next episode. Bye.